Melissa, welcome to the Rain or Shine podcast. I am so thrilled to be sitting down and chatting with you. I've gotten to know you a little bit through the Mentor Collective Mastermind, where you are the marketing coach. And every time I either listen to you speak or tune into one of your podcasts, I feel like I learn how multifaceted your journey is. And I feel like you are the perfect guest to share a little bit about your story and where you're at today on the Rain or Shine show. So, first off, thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelsey. I'm super excited to be here. And I think that really speaks to the power of getting in rooms and Zooms where you can just connect with people and expand. And so I'm super grateful that happened for us and to be here with your community.
Absolutely. And yeah, one of my goals after taking a maternity leave for a year was to get back in rooms. And that was my goal in January 2025. And I just kind of forgot how expansive it is to put yourself at events, networking groups, masterminds. And yeah, it just like put me back on the rocket ship after feeling like I was a little stagnant. And I was like, all I needed was to meet a bunch of new people like I did the past 8 years before I took a break. So, anyways, very grateful to these rooms to be able to connect with people that maybe I otherwise wouldn't cross paths with in my small little
Mhm.
town here in Canada. So let's start with some rapid fire, Melissa. So, first off, what is your favorite way to wind down after a long week of running your agency? I see how busy you are. I just assume your schedule is very packed. You also love to work out and take care of yourself. So, what do you do to unwind after a busy week?
Friday nights are typically like silent solo nights. I'm very introverted, believe it or not. And for me, there's a lot of energy expenditure all week. And I love pouring in. But what I have found is actually silence. Believe it or not, like I won't even voice note out loud, typically on Friday nights and to a really good workout Saturday. And then by the time I leave that workout and get home, I feel really recharged. And that's been a ritual I've done for a long time. I think probably dating back to, without realizing it, when I was running Boston Marathon. Um, I ran it 5 years in memory of my daughter, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point. But um, every Friday night was like a night for me to kind of connect with my grief at the time
Mm.
and what I was feeling and everything, like to decompress from the week. And of course, you're not going out on Friday night when you're getting up to run 10 to 20 miles on Saturday morning. And so it kind of became a habit since 2015, to be honest. So 10 years now of that just very uh, inner time, checking in with myself, no stimulation, resetting my nervous system into a great sweat session on Saturday, and then I'm good to go.
I love this. And what that brings up for me is the importance of blueprinting rituals that feel really good. And I think in every season of running our business, it's going to look a little bit different. But what I've noticed is that for us, it may not look like we just take Saturday, Sunday off because we're not working a typical 9 to 5. But sometimes we find these rituals in our week. Like you're saying, it was either going for a run or now sitting in silence, going to bed, waking up and doing like a really epic workout. And then you just feel recharged and you might pour back into work. So I think it's about finding like what are those things that like bring you back to wholeness and creativity and, get your energy back, so to speak. Blueprint that and use it for as long as you can because that's like a tool in our toolkit to be able to pour more deeply into our clients.
100%. Yes.
What is a book or a podcast or a person who has impacted your life?
The Four Agreements, hands down, one of the books I think about, reference, and reread more than any other book.
Mm.
And the Four Agreements in their surface level state are so simple, but if you truly apply them in every aspect of their being, it is really challenging. And so I'm always deepening into that book. And believe it or not, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, for those of you who do not know, they were the quarterback and head coach duo for the New England Patriots. I am from Boston. And when I was going through really tough time, I kid you not, Kelsey, I would watch 30 for 30s and documentaries on their journey and how they came from nothing and how hard they fought and how relentless they were and how nothing was emotional. Everything was just a process and data driven. And I remember just binging that for hours in some of my darkest times as like something to hold on to for possibility. And it wasn't, I was never like a fangirl in the way that many people might anticipate, like fangirls of professional athletes. I was a student. I was genuinely a student of the way that they approached mastery. And I really stepped into what I value as mastery over more. So rather than taking on more, and there's a lot of different things I could coach, teach, and do and sell, how am I focused on mastery?
Ooh, oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there. And yeah, first of all, we'll put the Four Agreements book in the show notes. That's a reminder to me to reread it because I read it like 10 years ago and I loved it, but I haven't read it since. So that's a great reminder. And you said something there that I want to double tap on. You said that nothing is emotional, and especially as it relates to the Tom Brady journey. Do you apply that same mentality to like making business decisions? Like, say
Yes.
you get up in the morning and you're feeling emotional, as many of us do. Do you just say, F it, do the work? Or like, is
Yeah.
there room for being like, someone said something mean about me yesterday online, and I'm just gonna go hide for a bit. So, what's your thought on nothing is emotional as it relates to the entrepreneurial journey?
It's everything because we make it so personal. And I mean, coming back to the four agreements, don't take anything personally. It's one of the agreements. And so I go so far as to, while I appreciate compliments and I receive them, I don't take them personally because I can't let somebody's opinion and perspective of me impact me that greatly. I
Mhm.
have to, at the end of the day, feel really good about how I'm showing up. Um, and there are always days where if I make decisions for my business off of feelings or emotion, we'd be on a roller coaster. Think about the human experience. It's a roller coaster. So it is my job, if I'm in responsibility to my business, to create a steady. Now, where I'll fluctuate slightly is, let's say I'm just feeling off. Maybe I don't get into that creative project that day. Maybe I don't have that like outreach for something that I need to be in a really good energy for, but I am still moving through and finding the things. And honestly, what I'll find is that when I stay committed, it shifts my energy anyways, and I'm in a better mood.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of the phrase mood follows action. So if I just stay in
Yeah.
inaction because I'm not feeling it, I'm never going to feel better. But sometimes just sitting down and being like, all right, let me browse some emails, read a Substack. I'm like, all right, let's go, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good reminder because what I find is that a lot of business owners in their first like 0 to 5 years will say they let their emotions dictate the way they show up and whether they work or not. And it's like, this is a strategic business decision to, write a Substack once a week or to go to a networking event every other Friday. It's not about how you feel, it's part of the plan in order to grow. And of course, there's wiggle room, but I appreciate that perspective of don't take it so personally. It's not emotional. And yeah, the life journey is so emotional that if we let that impact business, we may not see that consistency and growth that we're all desiring so deeply, right?
Hmm.
All right, let's rewind a little bit. I'm curious, going back to your journey, I know you haven't always been running a marketing agency. So, can you take us back to the moment when you launched your business and like how did this all come to be? Because I believe you started more in the nutrition and juicing
Hmm.
space. And that's actually very similar to my background. I was a holistic nutritionist 12 years ago, building an online business and then got into marketing. But yeah, take us back to a little bit of that earlier origin story and then how you ended up building this marketing agency that you have today.
Yeah, I started as like a celery juice girl. I was holistic health and mindset. My background was actually in psychology and sociology. I was a high school educator for 10 years. I was in high schools. And I then began teaching yoga. And I had people ask me, would you mindset coach me? Because I'm like giving them life lessons while they're in downward dog, you know? And I started doing juicing workshops and coaching on that. And so I coached women both privately and in a group community. And within about 13 months, we grew to a seven-figure business, all organically, no paid ads. And I realized I understood messaging, marketing, and branding in a way that wasn't commonly talked about. Like it wasn't anything fancy. I mean, if the video was showing, if anyone's seen this in video, like I'm not a very fancy person, and just like letting that build into my brand, right? Um, and so I started then coaching other people on how to build their business and realized that where people kept coming to me over and over and over was marketing, messaging, and branding. And the agency, as you can relate to, is more of a headache than just coaching. Margins are lower. The QA needs are way higher. The workload is higher, but it solved such a problem where I was seeing my clients, I would coach and consult, and they would hire out. and they would get smoke and mirrors. They'd get people who didn't really care. They weren't getting clear communication, or they had to go to 9 different places to hire, a video editor, a graphic designer, a copywriter. And so honestly, I think entrepreneurship is just about solving problems. And the bigger the problems you solve, the more lucrative you're going to be. And so I just became obsessed with solving this problem of creating this like one spot with like a very rigorous think New England Patriots, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady approach to building up people's marketing and sales funnels, right? So it was all very organic and authentic to me. And that's what I did. So it was an evolution for sure.
hmm hmm I love that you say, like, you were not fancy. You weren't trying to be someone you weren't. Like, starting this journey in the holistic health world, you're like, I'm just going to show up and I'm going to start seeing what my clients are asking for, right? Like, you're teaching yoga, and they were probably saying, like, whether it was actually verbally or not, like, I want more from you, Melissa. And you kind of like follow
Mhm.
that nudge. And I think that's such an important reminder that where we start as entrepreneurs is not always where we are going to end up. And it literally is like an evolution. And if you're not willing to show up, pay attention, and kind of like continue to solve new problems so that you don't fall stagnant, that's when I think you become irrelevant, right? So it's like you didn't cling on to that initial identity of, well, I'm just going to stay in the holistic health space and keep going, keep going. You're like, actually, there's new problems opening up here, and why don't I just keep following my own curiosity to see how I can solve them? And I think that's super important to not feel so rigid in any identity.
I don't know anybody who has longevity in the online or even brick and mortar industry. I don't know anyone with longevity, and not just longevity of sustaining, but longevity in growing to new levels, who
hmm
is in the same niche or offers that they started in. So I would just say not only like could it happen, it's going to happen if you grow.
So true. Speaking of evolution, I feel like this is such an appropriate time because we're recording this at the end of December 2025. And I know both you and I love to just like dissect what's going on in marketing and what trends are happening and what's working, what's not working. And so I feel like it'd be fun to get into a little bit of just marketing deep dive, or we'll call it marketing hot takes with you. So I'm curious, what do you feel is working really well for clients of yours right now, or even for your brand as it relates to marketing and visibility and getting more engagement? What is working right now that you wish people talked about more or you wish people knew?
Two things come to mind right away: volume and a cohesive brand. And I just have to say, like, it's a volume game. It is
Yep.
absolutely a volume game. And you have to let go of perfectionism. You got to let go of control. If you
Mhm.
want to be seen, you have to put out enough content to be seen, and let go of the idea that everybody is going to see that post in the moment you post it and be ready to buy. You just have to stay on people's radar so frequently that when they, in their own life, are ready to buy, they're thinking of you because you've been so present and so visible and you have that volume and you're so consistent. It's it's being on demand when the buyer is ready to consume,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And if you're only posting and you don't get results right away, or your volume isn't, first of all, if your volume isn't frequent enough, you're not going to be on anyone's radar, period. If you're not on people's radar, they're not buying from you. And then secondly, if you're not consistent and do longevity, then if you don't get the result right away and you stop kind of posting or you pull back, they're going to forget about you. And so that volume and consistency is huge. And I'll pause there before I get into my thoughts on brand being the next most important thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like, okay, so yeah, let's pause on the volume thing because that's the advice that I don't think anybody wants to hear, right?
No?
Because that it almost goes against what we were saying the last like 10 years of like work less and make sure you're not, doing it all and trying to stretch yourself thin. But I totally agree with you. We are in a day and age where attention is fractured, especially as it relates to all these platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, the people who are winning are the ones who are showing up everywhere. And that does
Mm-hmm.
mean you better activate that LinkedIn that's been dead. You better, consider getting on TikTok because you're already creating the clips and making sure you have impressions happening all over the internet, especially when we think of AI. search engine visibility. Like it pulls the person who's most credible. And how do you get credibility on the internet? You have a presence on all of the major platforms. People are talking about you on Reddit. They're blogging about you. They, have a YouTube video where you're mentioned. So it's like,
Mhm.
sadly, volume is super important. And so before we go on to the next thing that's working the brand, um, for somebody who's struggling with volume because they're like, I'm a solo entrepreneur. I only have so much time in the day and I don't have the budget to necessarily hire like a huge production team. What is something simple that they can do to increase their volume without feeling totally burned out?
I mean, two things. One, have a system in place. So for me, the content capacity that we have is very much rooted in the system that we have.
Mm.
So my team, for me alone, we are doing 6 posts a day on Instagram, four on my personal and two on my book page.
Wow.
We have clients that we do one, two, or three posts for a day. So if we just take mine and we have, about 40 to 50 clients. So we are producing, let's just call it 60 pieces of content a day.
Yeah.
That's not including landing pages or lead magnet, any of that. We can only do that because we have our systems so dialed in. So start simple,
Mhm.
have one section where all of your assets go, right? I personally use Monday. You can do it in Trello. You can do it in Asana. I'm sure you have systems, right? But up top, it's just all of the folders for copywriting, all of the Dropboxes, all the Google Drives, right? Then put all your ideas in another section under it. Then what you're going to start working on. Then keep your assets. We put all the assets in there once they're posted for repurposing.
Mm.
It's very humbling. Nobody's watching that closely. If I put up a photo or a reel with a different hook or a different caption, different quote that I put up a few weeks ago, no one notices because I'm not that important,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And it's very humbling. So, I mean, that's one thing. And the other is there is a level of, investing in outsourcing. And I don't know when it's a tipping point for somebody's business, but like I've always invested beyond my comfort level
Mm.
to grow my business and the things that I don't want to do. I run a marketing agency. I hate making content. I don't do my own.
Yep.
I like the strategy and the ideas, right? But I say, a long time ago, you wanted to start a business. It was only brick and mortar options, really.
Mhm.
You're paying to be in like the phone book. You're paying for billboards. You're paying for advertising. You're paying to rent a space, an office space. Nowadays, I think that our rent of 2025, 2026 is being visible online.
Hmm. That's such a good analogy that I've never heard before. Because I think a lot of people, they want their startup costs to be zero. They want their profitability to be 100%. But it's like, we're running a business. So if you think about like, if you have to walk downtown and see which brick and mortar you're investing in, but if there's already six other banks, like maybe you're going to have to fight a little harder, spend a little more on advertising. So when you think about it that way, it's like, yeah, it's normal to have operating expenses. And you also said you always invest a little beyond your comfort zone, right? So not playing that
100%.
conservative game, but going, hey, if I want to make big leaps, I'm going to have to find, whatever, those rooms or mentors or strategies that I might pay for. But when you pay, you kind of can make that accelerated jump, especially when you do it strategically. So I think that's
Hmm.
awesome. Okay, let's go to number two that you said is working. And I think you said cohesive messaging and brand.
Yeah, 100%. People misunderstand brand. I did. I didn't like brand at first. I was like, brand is for fake people. No, no, no. Everyone has a brand. It's
Yeah.
just whether or not it's working for you and whether or not it's clear to your potential customers, to your community, to your clients. Everyone has a brand. Once I figured this out, it was like, oh, right. And my brand was very much like no frills, ATV. We use barbells. We travel a lot. We whiteboard, like building it around the things that are authentic. Now, what most people do is they think that brand is only relevant to their marketing and like social media, a photo shoot, a color palette, a font. That's not it. Those are vehicles that can bring your brand to life, but your brand goes from the opt-in when clients first find you, potential clients, through nurturing and connection, through your sales process, through onboarding, through retention and referrals. And so I really work to bring our clients' brands alive in all 5 touch points of the funnel
Hmm.
and making sure that happens. It's going to increase your average client spend, the length that they stay, and referrals, and it's going to attract more clients because It feels secure. If somebody feels confusing, do you want to give your money to them?
Hmm. No, not
Somebody
at
feels
all.
solid, consistent, and clear, that creates a sense of security.
Hmm. Hmm.
Consumers need a sense of security to risk
Hmm.
because taking a chance and putting money towards a new goal or something they don't know how it's going to go is inherently a risk.
Hmm.
So your brand mitigates buyer risk, perceived buyer risk.
I'm obsessed with this. And I think that the phrase that I always say is consistency breeds trust. And I've
Mm-hmm.
heard you talk about this before, but like you post yourself working out all the time. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how does that necessarily exactly relate to like join my agency? Well, it doesn't, but people see you are a person of consistency, you are strong, you are dedicated,
Mm-hmm.
and that breeds trust, which means that when people invest their hard-earned dollars with your agency, they're like, yeah, I can trust her the same way I trust she shows up for her workouts when she says she's going to attend. And I know it almost seems like disconnected, but all the things that we do outside of work, it kind of proves the type of person that you would be as a leader, as an entrepreneur. So if you are someone who's sharing a personal brand per se, and you're saying everybody has a brand, don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to show those things that you do that build trust and that are consistent and that and whatever your core values and personality traits are, show that because that'll attract the type of person that resonates with those, right?
Mm-hmm. There's so much fake, especially with AI. There's so much smoke and mirrors, and then there's so much with AI. People, I believe, are craving just authenticity more and more and more.
Hmm. Hmm. You talk about something called, I don't know what it's called, like brand personas, and you pair two people together.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that? Because I had never really heard that philosophy before, but I think my listeners will really resonate with that.
sure. So the way that I teach this to my team and to the clients we support is if two famous people were to birth you, who would they be? And related to your business, right? Um, this gives both, if you have a team helping you, or yourself, if you're making your own kind of content, building out your own brand, or a potential buyer, an immediate understanding of who you are.
Mm,
Because if they don't know you yet, but you can reference two famous people that are well known for certain values or characteristics or personalities or niches, that is going to make it so much more clear in who you are.
mm.
So, I did this. I have to do a new one, but when I did it with my team a while ago, it's just been the joke. They said that I am Elf, Will Ferrell in the movie Elf, and Bill Belichick, the Patriots
I
coach.
love this.
Now, if you know Bill, and I'm like, great, I have these two like old dudes, you know what I mean? Like, but it's not about aesthetics, but Elf is like just this like wildly optimistic, like sees the wonder in things. And that is a big part of me, almost to a fault sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I don't see flags, you know? And then the other side, the way I run businesses I talked about is very data driven, process driven. Like I don't get too high, I don't get too low.
Yeah.
A big sale comes in, I don't get too excited. I really don't. We lose a client, I don't get too down. I really don't. And that's something I told you I really channeled from Bill Belichick and studying their thing of mastery. So if I said to people, especially when Bill Belichick was coaching, oh, I'm like, if Elf and Bill Belichick had a baby, it's me.
Hmm.
Now all of a sudden they can like associate me with things more clearly. Does that make sense?
It does perfectly. And I need to do this exercise for myself because I still don't know who my persona parents are. But I do remember, like, so many years ago, I was watching a Marie Forleo YouTube video, and she basically was describing how she birthed the idea of her book tour. And she's like, imagine a Beyonce concert, but attending a live taping of the Oprah show. And I was like, I immediately understood what she was trying to create. It was not just a sit down interview,
Exactly.
it was going to have dancing and lights and spectacles and music and like so much of that. And I was like, that is the most brilliant thing. And then I turned off the video and I was like, huh, she just described something using other things and it anchored exactly who she was. So I think that's such a cool exercise for somebody who's
Hmm.
like, I'm trying to define my brand, but I still, I don't know who to compare it to. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears to social media marketing. The thing that I always hear
Okay.
is it saturated? There's so much content, blah, blah, blah. Do you think there's such thing as saturation as it relates to putting more clutter on the internet or someone new starting a brand and they're like, "Oh, is it too late to start my Substack because it had its rise in the last year and now I feel like it's saturated." I'm curious your thoughts on that word.
I'm just going to be so honest. If anyone is hiding behind, and yes, hiding behind, it's
Ooh.
too saturated,
Yeah.
you are looking for an out and an excuse.
Ooh, that's bold and good.
You're not looking for a solution and you're not looking for an understanding. Nothing, what is too saturated? So, by default, saying it's too saturated implies that there's an expectation of what it should be, that there should only be a certain number of people. It's not too saturated. It is what it is. We have billions of people in this world. This is the way that the world is moving. This should be an expectation. You
Mhm.
want to resist it, you're going to be left behind. Sorry. I'm just super blunt,
I love
right?
it.
But
Yeah.
you want to resist it, you're going to be left behind. You want to complain about it, you're going to be left behind.
Hmm.
You want to wait for it to get more quiet, you're going to be left behind.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's like going against a wave crashing, or you go with the wave.
Hmm.
And so going with the wave, and this is where it's a volume game. And this is where I do think you have to be more discerning. And this is exactly what I said. Why I think oh, Kelsey, I could jam on this stuff all day.
I love
The
it.
two most important things are volume and brand because people are making more buying decisions around your brand. Do they trust your brand? Is your brand clear? So yeah, I think you just have to be more discerning in your brand. Exactly what I said before. And you have to have more volume. Exactly what I said before. This is why I think those things are the most important because there is more noise. Yes, but it's reality. So for me to say it's too saturated means that I have some subliminal expectation of how many people Mark Zuckerberg should allow on Instagram.
Hmm. Hmm.
So let go. I always tell people when you have something like that, like, what's your expectation?
Hmm.
Like, you want freedom in your life. And this is a lesson that I learned in honestly my grief journey. What's your expectation? Because most unhappiness and suffering comes from subliminal expectations that we just have in our head, either for the way the world should work, the way our relationship should work, the way our partner should show up, the way our team should be. Like, we have these expectations that weren't necessarily even agreed upon.
Hmm. Hmm. So, so juicy. So, okay, you've kind of revisited these concepts of volume and brand, and I really think the listeners are resonating with that. I think the piece that I want to crack into before we shift into your book, Scar Tissue, is what role does experimentation play in all of this? Because I'm thinking about the listener who's still early in the journey. They're like, yeah, I'd like to increase my volume and I kind of know my brand, but they're still in this experimentation phase. And I think the moment something doesn't work, they're like, okay, put the brake on, no more volume. And then they're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. And they're not sure and they just kind of shut down. I'm just curious your thoughts on experimentation as it relates to making sure we're putting the volume of the right stuff and that we can keep showing up confidently that I'm building the right brand for my company.
Mm. Here's what I'll say is that, and I'll say it with a little more compassion, but entrepreneurship, I love it. My background in psychology. You want to get to the next level, it's going to be ego death after ego death after ego death.
Yep,
It's
yep,
just true. And
so true.
us thinking that every single person is seeing that post and paying that much attention and the post didn't perform well and everyone's noticing, it's our ego getting in our way. Test, test, test. The benefit of volume and that benefit of how saturated it is that no one's paying that close of attention.
Yeah.
I just want your face or your username or your ideas or your offers popping up, popping up, popping up. I will tell you what happens is when you attract new users, they're going to go to your content, they're going to binge your page. That's about it. Then you're going to start populating for them in their algorithm, right? And they're just going to see your face and you're just going to stay on their radar. But
Mhm.
people are not long term reading all of your content. They're just not.
Not.
And like, I mean, I can tell you even for like, you know, Alex Hormozy, I love his work. I am not reading all of his posts, watching all of his reels, reading all of his captions. So that's what I would say there. Kelsey, I'm so sorry. I had someone at my door.
No, go for it. Go for it. We'll pause.
Okay. I just want to add to that it is a muscle to build over time. So the ego deaths don't just happen. So I don't say it, as if like, oh, it should be easy. It's a muscle that you build over time. It's like driving at first feels labor intensive. You're 10 and 2, you're 10 and 2. And then all of a sudden you're like, how did I get here? My
Mm,
first posts that I was putting up, especially because they were more personal around my grief journey, around my loss, around, mindset and health, I deleted some of them
yeah.
and I panicked. So I do want to just offer that it is a muscle that you actually build. So if you're like, well, that doesn't feel attainable, I used to be in that position, but from just reps and consistency and humbling myself day after day after day that I'm not that important,
Yep.
it really helped me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good reminder that, like, when you and I are having a conversation, we are people who have been in this game for years and years and years, and we put ourselves out there so many times that it's like, okay, that muscle of resiliency, our skin has become thicker, right? Because we've done this over and over, and we've had the negative comments, and we've failed, and we've fallen on our face. But yeah, for somebody who is in those earlier stages, just know that, like, it's going to feel hard. It's going to feel sticky. And we're speaking as people who are kind of like a little further along, going, I know this sucks. I know it's hard to experiment. I know volume feels impossible right now, but like, keep going. If this is that little glimmer, to not quit
Mhm.
on your business, because a lot of people are closing doors right now going, this is hard. But, fast
Mhm.
forward a few years, the people who stay in the game are going to be the ones who are the go-tos in their industry. And I really do
Yeah.
believe that right now. So if you learn nothing else from this podcast, it's like stay the course and like try to listen to what we're saying more as like your older besties versus
Mhm.
like, just toughen up, because there's that
Yeah, yeah,
balance
yeah.
of tough love versus,
A
kind of
100%.
being real.
100%.
Okay, so you recently launched a book called Scar Tissue, and I want to hear a little bit more about the background of what brought you to write this book. And I love the tagline. You kind of describe it as a story of what it takes to rebuild after loss and a reminder that your deepest wounds can become your greatest strength. So, kind of piggybacking on the conversation we were just having, that sometimes when bad things happen, like you can actually come out of the other side stronger. So, for someone who
Mhm.
hasn't been exposed to your journey of what you went through as it relates to grief and what this book ultimately came from, can you give us a little bit of a rundown of your backstory? Because it's incredibly powerful, and I know a lot of our listeners are going to resonate.
Thank you. I mean, it's the purpose of everything that I do. And the book is my mission, you
Mm,
know.
beautiful.
And the book was written really in honor of my daughter, Layden, was her name, and she passed away in 2014. We spent 99 nights in Boston Children's Hospital, and she died of a disease not very well known, though it is becoming more researched, called necrotizing enterocolitis, um, NEC for short, NEC. And her case was termed a catastrophe. And so my whole world was rocked, my identity taken, life as a mom. I remember saying I'll never have a Christmas where I'm not Santa again. And, all of these things. And it was just like, who am I? And so as I began, there's a saying or there's a belief in Japanese culture, and it's called kintsugi, or philosophy rather. And kintsugi came from this ancient Japanese ceramic were brought to kings, emperors, really. And sometimes they would get smashed in transit.
Mm,
And what they started doing was taking the smashed ones and repairing them with gold in the cracks.
huh.
And then those became more desirable. And so it's this idea that I went through when I was completely smashed and shattered of how do I fill my cracks with gold? How do I find the wisdom in this loss? How do I pay, honor my daughter through the way that I live and the way that I learn? And then the way that I share what I've learned. And my grief counselor told me I'll never forget. My grief counselor saved me. But she looked at me and said, Melissa, someday you're going to write a book. Now,
Mm,
for reference, I could barely get out of bed at this time in my life. I would roll out of bed in a bed full of all of her things,
yep.
and I would pick up the same wrinkled clothes I put on, and I would count down until 4 o'clock when I thought it was acceptable to sit down at the TV, and I would watch Seinfeld because it was light and I couldn't handle anything heavy. And I would have like chips and cheese and wine and look at her pictures and cry.
Mhm.
Like that was me. And so I have so much compassion for anyone, whatever you're navigating, and I have so much belief
Mhm.
in what's possible on the other side. So the book is really a toolkit for anyone navigating anything challenging. It could be divorce, it could be empty nest, it could be pet loss. The tools are not rooted in just a very intense death like the loss of your child. They're tools that are universally applicable to the things we all go through. Because one of the chapters of the book concludes with this theme of sonder. And sonder means that everyone is carrying a story we know nothing about.
Mm.
And so I guarantee anyone listening here has a story that I know nothing about. And so I honor that story. And I think that when we learn to lead with that, we live more compassionately.
It's so, I think just it's so beautiful that you say you can turn something painful into kind of your purpose and something beautiful. What were some of those, and I know you talk about this in the book, what were some of those tactical things that you did in order to begin alchemizing deep pain and intense grief, which is just indescribable. It's a feeling that I think, it's hard to put words behind. What were some of those things you did to alchemize grief, pain, and just deep sadness into something beautiful?
Mhm. I, first of all, part of the book is about not bringing toxic positivity. So I don't want anyone listening to think like, oh, I'm so glad this happened to me. In fact, every chapter breaks down a toxic positivity statement and how to reframe it and how to respond. Like, well, God wouldn't give you anything more than you can handle. Not helpful, right?
Yeah.
Layden wouldn't want you to be sad. And then it's like, well, now I feel guilty for feeling sad because I am sad, right? Also not helpful, but people are trying to help. So the book is very much about not taking anything personally. That was a huge thing, very tactical in my grief to not take anything personally.
Yeah.
Second thing is I actually really studied grief. I'm an educator and a teacher in my background. And so I think that's naturally my style and I like mastery. The more I could study what was actually happening to me, the less overwhelming it felt
Hmm.
because I understood it more. And so I would encourage anyone to navigating something to kind of study the energy of grief, of loss. And
Yeah.
again, this could be divorce. This could be an aging parent,
Yeah.
right? I have a woman I worked with and empty nest was really hard for her.
Yeah.
And those are all grief. Those are all grief.
Hmm.
And I break it down in the book. So hopefully that serves. And a couple of really tactical things was understanding teammates that no one in your life can meet all of your needs, but you want to position people to succeed. So my brothers were really good distractors,
Yep.
but not really good listeners. And like my cousin's wife was an incredible listener. She was like 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
So not too close where it would shatter her, but
Hmm.
close enough. And she was a mother, right? So just finding how other people can support you, because I will tell you that people innately do want to help and support.
Hmm. You've said a couple things here, like don't take it personally, build your support team, which it's like they almost resonate with when you talk about grief and when you talk about entrepreneurship. I'm curious, do
Yep.
you see a lot of parallels
Mhm.
between the grief journey and the entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, I talk about that all the time. And the lessons that I learned in grief helped me build a successful business.
Interesting.
I told when my publisher was, when we were publishing the book, I'm like, I'm sorry, every entrepreneur needs to read this book,
Okay.
even if they haven't navigated loss, because it will give you the skill sets and the tools that actually will help you in life and business.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
if you apply these in your relationships will 10x. If you apply them in your business will 10x. It's just they're actually to help you from being really broken to coming back together. But you don't have to be broken to apply these lessons. And if you are, fine, But I literally told my publisher every entrepreneur needs to read this book.
Mm. It's funny because my next question for you was going to be, who is this book like truly for? And I think that's incredible that every entrepreneur can benefit from it because of the parallels. So I'd
Yeah.
highly encourage everyone to go get a copy of Scar Tissue, and I believe it's available on your website, on Kindle. You can
Yep.
get a hard copy on Amazon. So we'll definitely link all of those in the show
Thank you.
notes. You are so welcome. Let's kind of start to wrap up here. So I'm curious. What are some tools or strategies or tactics that are keeping you joyful in your life and business in this moment?
I think, oh, that's such a great question. I mean, nothing crazy to me. I mean, when I even applied to work with Chris,
Yep.
um, who we both know, and work with, on my application, I put my approach is chop wood, carry water. And so I don't ever do anything that's really, and so if anyone listening isn't sure what that means, chop wood, carry water is just kind of doing the simple things over and over every single day. Chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water. And so I don't have anything that's like the new thing.
Yeah.
I work out, I walk my dog, I take care of my team, I serve my clients. I say no, I guess. I mean, the biggest thing is I say no to things that I don't want to do, and I say no to clients I don't want to serve.
Mm.
And so I think saying no is probably what then leads to the most joy because I don't have anything in my life that drains my energy. I really don't. House care, maintenance stuff a little bit drains me, but we outsource that.
I was gonna say, yeah, that can be outsourced. Yeah, it's something Chris actually always says that he says the money's in the monotony sometimes, and it's just
Mhm,
like, sometimes we just like stay with the same monotonous schedule that is good for
mhm,
our souls instead of being like, oh, I'm just gonna go like try out this new thing that I don't know if it's like sometimes you find a rhythm and it works, and you're like, I don't need anything radical. I need
mhm,
this beautiful, consistent cadence that allows me to wake
mhm,
up, feel confident in the way I'm approaching my day, feel confident in my energy and bandwidth needs for the day. And yeah,
mhm.
I love that sometimes just finding a rhythm and I don't know, like I don't want to say the word coasting because I don't think that's a good word, but just finding a rhythm that works and duplicate and duplicate and duplicate. Doesn't need to be extreme or radical or anything outlandish,
Mhm.
just what works for you, right?
Exactly. And I think the more you find joy in the simple and monotonous, the more joy you feel.
Hmm. That's so true. And that literally is the perfect way to start ending because the concept of the show, Rain or Shine, it really was birthed. I was listening to a episode of, I think it was the Chris Williamson podcast, and he said something like, to be upset on a rainy day is to not understand how the world works. It's like waking up and being like,
Mhm.
oh shit, it's rainy. I can't go for my run today. But it's like, of course there's going to be rainy days. Like, why are you
Right.
upset? Because duh,
Hmm.
because there'll be a sunny day tomorrow, but we need the rain.
Hmm.
And, you're going to
Hmm.
have 20% rainy days. So stop basing your life around like, I only do it on a sunny day or I only do it when it feels good. It's like sometimes we just got to show up whether we feel like it or not.
100%.
Melissa, this has been so fun. I'm so grateful to you for taking the time. I'm curious, where can people find you if they want to follow you personally, get the book, or consult with your agency? Give us all the places.
Absolutely. So I hang it on Instagram a lot. It is my name, Melissa, one L, two S's, and then Dlugolecki, which is not easy, but if you just put
Oh, yeah.
DLU, I tend to pop right up. DLU. My website is speakingofmelissa.com. That's got my book on it, all the ways you can work with me. But if you're on Instagram, just pop in and say hi. I love chatting in my DMs and I hope this shared value and thank you for having me with your community.
Of course. And we know you post multiple times a day, so we're going to head over
Uh,
and consume all of this incredible content that you're putting out. So thank you so much, Melissa. We wish you all of the best.
Thank you.